The topic is interesting. It's an interesting title as well. However, I think I would have to challenge the title a bit because I don't think that we ever are undercover angels. The angelic stage is our final stage, and it's a very short role that we play in the drama. As angels, we are by definition revealed. We are uncovered. So the long preparation before that to become angels is actually as Brahmins. So we are undercover Brahmins to become angels. That would be more accurate, in fact. The angelic stage is so much connected with the end part, which Baba has described in many murlis, especially Avyakt murlis. It's it's a part that we play close to destruction, during destruction, and a very important aspect of that part is to facilitate the home journey for all souls, guide them through Dharamraj Puri and taking them back home. So we will escort, we are like escorts in that sense. But it's very much a revealed role, and I mean, it will be the part of the revelation of Baba, and it will also be our revelation as angels. But until then, of course, we have a long preparation as Brahmins, and we have to go through certain stages. There are certain milestones, certain certificates that we have to take or acquire before we can reach that stage. And it's a bit like, you know, the known the known well-known image of the caterpillar and the butterfly. I mean, the caterpillar is in preparation in the cocoon for a long time, or it emerges as a caterpillar rather, and then it stays in that form for quite a long time, and then eventually it emerges as a butterfly from the cocoon. Huh? And that is, we can say it's the same creature. I mean, it's the same entity, but it has a completely different form, and we therefore have two different names for them: caterpillars and butterflies, and they don't really look much alike. And in the same way, as we emerge as angels, we will be recognized as such. And Baba has even said that people will not even be able to see our body. They will just see the light emerging from us. And that stage is so close to our final stage and our divine Satopradhan stage that it's really just a matter of changing body, changing age, and then we are deities. So the part of an angel is a very short part. But of course, it's not destruction that will make us angels. It's the effort that has to go on for a very long time period prior to destruction, and it just happens to coincide with destruction. Those two, you can say, scenes in the drama are synchronized. So the main steps to angelicness are really, I mean, there's one big milestone that we have to pass before we can probably even start serious efforts to become angels, and that is the achievement of Jivan Mukti. And Jivan Mukti is we are all familiar with the term from the Murli, liberation in life, and it is actually very important, is probably one of the most important key terms in knowledge, because Jivan Mukti really means that I am qualified for a divine life. I mean, that is the certificate for heaven, really, that I am Jivan Mukt. Because what is the certificate? Basically, it is that I am free of all vices, free of the effect of all my past sins. I am not causing anyone sorrow. I'm not causing myself any sorrow, no self-inflicted pain or sorrow or injury. I'm able to sustain myself and even sustain others. I have no dependencies, I have no bondages, I have no fears. One is all the vices. I have mastered my mind. I have become master, or you can say I've conquered all my old nature and sanskaras. But I'm also not affected by the impact, the influence of, 63 births of sins. So that is, it sounds like a big mouthful, really, but those are the qualifications for heaven. I have to be able to reach such a stage of purity to be able to say that I'm fully qualified for heaven. And it may also sound like this is everything I just mentioned, but actually it isn't. It's a milestone. It's a step on the way. It's towards our journey to perfection, to become karmatit. We have to reach this, you can say, stage of Jivan Mukti or Jivan Mukt. And of course, this is something that is, you can say it's a bit like reaching absolute zero. I mean, we can hardly get to that point, but we can get as close as we want. And of course, the closer we get to the ideal, the more is the effort. So we make the big steps in the beginning, and we cover maybe 75%, 80%, 90%. Long before we reach the angelic stage. And this has to be achieved long before we reach the angelic stage. Because the stage of Jivan Mukt is actually the stage where all our mayas have been conquered. It's a stage where we're not struggling anymore. We have no more inner conflicts or outer conflicts, external conflicts with others. It's very close to the stage of perfection, in the sense that we have understood how to live properly, how to act properly, how to avoid creating karmic bondages. And we have become detached and loving. So many of the, you can say, the key efforts that we hear in the Murli, especially the Sakha Murli, are about that stage. It's really different aspects, different competences that we need to acquire to be called Jivan Mukt. And the feeling, you can discuss how Jivan Mukt you are, but the feeling is very significant. There's a very clear and significant change in our perception and in our Brahmin life when we reach that stage, because it's basically like a tipping point from being the oldest souls. We are now becoming the newest souls. So that rejuvenation process, once that reaches a tipping point, then we will feel very, very different. And we will feel like all the adverse situations that we may have experienced in the beginning, they are subsiding, and we feel a lot of impetus, a lot of new energy, kind of enthusiasm, and a pull towards our home, basically. And that's a very important point here, that when we come to Baba, we first get a kind of taste of purity. But I mean, we are basically impure, but we get that taste of purity, and that awakens the desire to to have all of it. And then we start our Brahmin life, and we make efforts, and and of course, I mean, our individual parts or paths are very different. But for almost every Brahmin, I would say every Brahmin, including Baba, Mama, Daddies, there will have been things to overcome and learn. I mean, there will have been, of course, some inner struggles. The difference is only how we are able to handle them. Can we do it very fast, or is it something that we drag out during our entire BK life? Because that is perfectly possible. We can. The Jivanmukh stage is a stage that we cannot say it comes immediately, because it takes time for the purification to happen. But it certainly doesn't take our entire Brahmin life. It's something that we have a lot of control on over. We can sort of make that process, or that part, as short as we like, within limits, and we can also just drag it on and on and on. And that means that until we reach that stage, our life will be going up and down. There will be fluctuations. There will be no stability. So the stage of Jivan Mukti is not just liberation in life, but it's also that stage of being stable. And you can see throughout all the Murlis, probably especially Avyak Murlis, Baba talks a lot about this stability over a long period of time. That this has to be really sort of ground into our nature and sanskaras, that self-mastery, that stage of being a self-sovereign. And in many ways you can say that a lot of Gyan falls like into dualities, right? We have, Baba says, Jivan Mukti in one eye and Mukti in the other eye. We also have two different Murlis. We have the Sakka Murlis and we have the Avyak Murlis. And they more or less follow the same demarcation, because the Sakka Murlis were spoken by by Brahma Baba before he became an angel, before he became complete. And if we were to summarize the whole sort of the whole content or the whole objective of the Sakka Murli, it's really to make us into kings, deities, whatever we want to call it. It's the same thing. It is everything that is sort of coined by the term Jivan Mukti. We are self-sovereigns. We have become conquerors of the five vices, of the five senses. Five elements, they come a bit later. That is, we're coming to that. But the five vices and the five senses, we have to become complete masters of them. And it's very, very clear from Sakka Murli that this is a recurrent theme. Baba is so often talking about, having these these dialogues with our sanskaras and our mind. Are they deceiving us? That is what he did himself, and so whatever Brahma Baba did in his lifetime, that is of course the same we have to do. We have to follow in Baba's footsteps. But note that Brahma Baba doesn't talk much about angels and the angelic stage in the Sakamuli for a very good reason, because he had not reached that stage until the very end. And you have all heard the stories about how those who knew Baba, who experienced Baba in his last years, they said that the big transformation happened just 2-3 years before he became Avyakt. That's when he started becoming very introverted, very detached, to an extent that he hadn't been before. So that also shows that he was experiencing the pull, no doubt about that, an extreme pull towards that bodiless stage, which incidentally Baba always connect with the angelic stage. So many Avyakt Mulis where Baba talks about the angelic stage, he says the way to reach it is through practicing the bodiless stage. That is actually the only effort that remains after becoming Jivan Mukt. So in a sense, Baba in the Avyakt Murli comes back to us and tells us about the angelic stage, having become an angel. He couldn't do it before, but now he can do it. He can tell us how it's experienced, what it's like, and how to achieve it. So the whole objective, if the objective of the Sakamuli is to become a king, well, then the objective of the Avyakt Murli is to become an angel. And that is then what the remaining part of our BK life is about. As mentioned, the state of Jivan Mukti is something we should achieve as soon as possible, because that is the stage where all the obstacles are cleared and we can actually start making serious efforts to become bodiless. I don't think it is possible, or at least it would be very difficult to make those efforts to become bodiless as long as we are unstable, fluctuating, struggling. As long as we are still warriors, we cannot really make that effort. So there is a clear order of events here. There are these stages, they come in a certain order, in a certain sequence, and we cannot bypass the stage of Jivan Mukti and go to the bodiless stage. And there is, the bodiless stage, aka angelic stage, is very much connected with, of course, the pull towards the home. The other part, which is not Jivan Mukti, but Mukti. So we have those, Jivan Mukti in one eye, Mukti in the other eye. So that is also part of our pilgrimage. We have to go to heaven and qualify for that, and we have to return home. And that pull towards the home is something that probably happens. It has happened. It happens, of course, in every BK's life, but it's not as consistent and intense as it becomes at the end. And Brahma Baba is probably the best example, the only example, as a matter of fact, that we have. And we saw, or they say, that that is exactly what happened towards the end of his life. So this indicates very clearly that there are a lot of preconditions that have to be met before we reach that stage of being able to return home. And there is also, I think, a certain tendency that the more Jivan Mukt we become, the more the enthusiasm, the purity, first of all, the purity level is rising, and the enthusiasm for going ahead and making the final effort to become bodiless will emerge in us very naturally. But there's one thing we have to be aware of, and that is always it's a caveat here, that Jivan Mukti is a very comfortable stage. It's a stage that we could actually stay in, and we could say, well, it's a bit like, ascending a mountain, and on a bicycle, for instance, you have to make a lot of effort to go up. Once you go over the top, you have, you're just freewheeling down. So it's from being a very laborious process, it becomes a very enjoyable process. And you can also just stay on the top and enjoy that. So the risk is always there that we sort of stay in the state of Jivan Mukti and don't go further than that. But there is like another mountaintop which is even higher, and that is the angelic stage. And that doesn't come by itself. It doesn't come that easily. It has to, it requires a lot of yoga, and very good quality yoga, and very consistent yoga. And that's why we cannot have any things in the way, anything that disturbs or impedes our efforts in that respect. And anything that we are still struggling with, it may be attraction to anything logic, or the vices, or old nature and sanskaras, relationships, whatever, that will be an obstacle in our further journey, and we will not have success, because the success, as Baba often says, it's almost a mantra of Baba's. He says success comes from determination, right? Determination leads to success, and that determination is one of the can say the side effects, or one of the results of Jivan Mukti, that it generates a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of determination, strong will, and a complete faith, in the journey, because after all, I'm seeing all the the achievements over the years, and that is solid proof of the method. So I know the method works, and I now just have to continue and make that, that final stretch. And there will then be a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of determination to do that, because it will require that. I think it will require effort on a completely different level than most BKs are doing, and including myself, for that matter. It's I think it has to be effort as Mamas and Babas, which was very incognito, by the way. I mean, that stage in Brahma Baba's life came at the end, and came probably quite suddenly, as a kind of it's a bit like, when you heat up water, and it becomes warmer and warmer, and then at a certain point the phase transition kicks in, and you get vapor. It starts to vaporize, and that phase transition is happening suddenly. It's the same when you cool down and the water solidifies into ice. That's also a very, very quick process, but it takes time to heat up. It takes time to cool down. So that preparation phase is long. But once we reach very close to the phase transition point, then it happens very fast. And that's why it's difficult to assess the timeline of our pilgrimage, because we may think, oh, I have spent 30, 40 years or whatever to reach this far. I don't feel I am even, 20% advanced, but it's not a linear progression, because once we get over that tipping point, Jivan Mukti, then things will accelerate, or they can accelerate at least. We have the freedom, the real freedom to shape our life as we want. So liberation in life is really the stage of being Maya proof. So the whole, if you take the Sakamurlis, it's all instructions and clarifications given by the teacher, the father, teacher, and Satguru, all three. And a lot of it is really, as it's remembered in the Gita, instructions on the battlefield. We are warriors at that point. We are still battling with Maya. We experience victory and defeat, and Baba is guiding us and constantly giving us courage to continue the war. And of course, this war is not going to continue until the very end. There has to be a time when we can say, I feel I have actually now won this war. It's just that we shouldn't confuse that victory with having reached the end goal, because the end goal is much farther away. So therefore, the Brahmin life, the pilgrimage, the journey is falling in two very distinct halves or segments.
Sorry for the interruption, but the translators ask a little bit slower, please.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Sorry. So it falls in two segments. The first segment leading to Jivan Mukti, and then the second one following, leading to Mukti, or the angelic stage. And we have to really to be accomplished, fully accomplished, before we can return home. Returning home, it's quite subtle how we become prepared for the home journey, because it's not just that you can say we die from the old world and we then have yoga, and then at some point we return home. There's a lot more to it. Before we can really die completely from the old world, we have to be fully accomplished. We have to reach that stage of fulfillment. I mean, if there's anything that hasn't been accomplished, anything that is lacking, any void or anything missing inside, any yearning, anything that we are longing for, then it will not allow us to become bodiless. It will act as a pull in all sorts of ways. And we have to reach that stage where we have fully accommodated and accepted our entire role in the drama, including our past. So if there's anything that we still regret, or we feel bad about, or there is some kind of ill feeling about our past, being indirectly sanskaras from previous births, or even from this birth, it will also not allow us to become bodiless. There are so many ways we can be pulled back. So, Baba's three last words, viceless, egoless, bodiless, they come in that order, and that's because you cannot become bodiless unless you have become fully viceless and fully egoless. And the egoless, the viceless is maybe obvious, but the egoless part is actually quite interesting. Dying from your ego, meaning dying from your worldly personality, identity. We can say that I may be able to detach from my body, but can I also detach from my inner body, so to speak, my old nature and sanskaras, my sense of identity, logic identity? That is not so simple and so easy, and but that is also a prerequisite. It's a requirement for becoming bodiless, that we fully conquer our ego as well. So most, if not all, of the effort really lies within the scope of the Sakamuli, becoming self-sovereigns, becoming Mayajit, conquerors of Maya, and being a master of our mind, intellect, and sanskaras. And that's self-sovereignty will then allow us to completely detach afterwards. We can detach from the whole drama, from our part in the drama, and we are ready to return home. And there is nothing, we're not leaving anything behind. No regrets and no pulls or yearnings or anything missing. Yeah, so I don't know how long I'm supposed to continue, but we can take some questions if you want.
Thank you so much for up to now, and we still have some time. And I don't see any questions actually, but I just took some notes. But if you like to continue, you can continue a little more.
Yeah,
It's really very, very interesting, the very vital points that you're just making a statement. So I think we would like to hear more.
right. So in a way, sorry, in a way we can say that that whole evolution from the moment we come to Baba till we leave our body at the end as angels returning home, it's really an evolution through different stages of detachment, right? When we come to Baba, we don't really know what detachment means, and that's also why this term detachment is so difficult to explain to other people, outsiders, because you need the experience of soul consciousness to truly understand what detachment means. And that detachment is not, being disinterested in the world as such. It's a detachment. The detachment is more or less synonymous with the stage of soul consciousness. So, and in that sense of detachment, we feel, of course, peace, and we feel a great security, we feel a great contentment at the same time. And then as our life goes on and we start to have more and more yoga, we start to master this detachment. We can sort of engage when we need, and we can step back and detach when we need. And that is what Baba is encouraging us to do, especially in the Avyakt Mulis, as a preparation to that angelic stage. And then there is that term, the living death, that comes up in the Sakamulis. We are dying a living death. This is going a bit further. The living death is really a complete disinterest, a disinterest and a detachment, a letting go of, things that are not in any way in accordance with our new value systems. So anything impure and even anything waste, old nature and sanskaras, we also develop a disinterest or even a distaste in, and that is the living death, which is usually not something that happens in one go. We die in stages. This type of death happens in stages. Initially, when we come to Baba, there's a lot of dying from the old world. I mean, certainly in my case, I think in many Brahmins, we completely change our life, especially double foreigners. When we come to Baba, lifestyle changes, maybe even friends and friend circles and hobbies and whatnot. But then, as time goes by, what happens in the beginning is that we usually overshoot. There's too much detachment. We sort of overdo it, and then we have to backtrace a bit and find the right balance, the natural balance, because we cannot sustain anything that is not natural to us. Anything that is a bit forced or a bit extreme is very difficult to maintain long term. So we have to find a balance that is comfortable. Whether it's optimal or ideal or could be better, that's not the key point. The key point is that we can sustain it on whatever level. So we have to find a level that is sustainable, because that's the most important thing: consistency. That we continue and don't fluctuate and don't change our disciplines or our routines. And then we usually find that in the course of our BK life, we will reach new stages of, that living death. It becomes more and more comprehensive. We simply lose a lot of interest in old things and the way we did things, and of course the ultimate living death is when we are so ready to leave our body that we can let go of that. And before that, dying from our ego, as we talked about before, is a very, very big and significant achievement. If I can die from my sense of ego, that is, well, if we say viceless, egoless, and bodiless, they are sort of equally important. That's at least a third of our task. Becoming viceless is 1/3, egoless another third, and then eventually bodiless. So, just as a closing remark here, the Jivan Mukti stage is in many ways what counts here and what we should have a lot of attention on, a lot of focus on, especially because as opposed to the angelic stage, which only comes at the end, we should have no illusion that we can reach that stage before the end, because Baba has guaranteed us in many murlis that stage will come at the end, because it is our final and perfect stage, and it's the stage of revelation. But long before that, we should really become Jivan Mukt, or at least as much as possible, at least to the extent that we have left that phase of battling and fluctuation. And that is very much in our hands. We can shorten that process or we can extend it as we like. Okay.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful. And there's one question. I think you have already answered this question, but again, let me just read it. Do you yourself experience the Jivan Mukti stage now?
I knew that question would come, interestingly. Well, I mean, as I said, it is a stage that you can be closer or farther away from. But there is a significant tipping point that is very that we cannot sort of miss, or that is very convincing, and that is when we reach sufficient level of Jivan Mukti that we are no longer in that battle mode, and our life becomes very easy, very sort of very stable and consistent, and we are not really we don't have that feeling of oldness or heaviness anymore. We have the feeling of rather being a new soul, being rejuvenated. Yes, I would say I am enjoying that stage. I know that it's not 100%, but from 80% maybe to 100%, the difference is maybe hardly noticeable, or it's there will maybe be a difference of intoxication, or of there will be other key indicators. But what I'm talking here is not some sort of ideal stage. It is enough accumulation that we can get rid of all the obstacles, all the impediments, and all that which is making us waste a lot of time and making us sort of going back and forth and right and left, and that we have to finish, because unless and until we reach that stage of stability, we cannot advance further.
Well, that's great. I hope many of us will feel the same thing. I think to feel really in that stage of purity and freedom is a wonderful thing. So we all wish that we will become soon. And there's another question. When you say we can shorten the journey to Jivan Mukti as much as we like, what does that take? And can we really that as per nature, we are under the influence of the battle, our weaknesses, so to speak, until we reach it? Is that clear enough?
Yeah, it is. I mean, as I also said, I think there's a minimum. We cannot reach it immediately after we come into Gyan. There has to be a certain period of accumulation and purification, and we have to sort of grasp the whole knowledge, and we have to, maybe more importantly, we have to go through the whole process of self-realization. Very, very important key element of our path is the path of self-realization, spinning the cycle of self-realization. That is an entirely personal effort that we cannot bypass. There are no shortcuts to that. We have to. It has to take the time it takes, and we have to be good students, basically have a keen interest in Gyan and in but there comes a point when we can say we don't really need we have understood Gyan more or less. We know what the the efforts are. We know, what is needed of us. We listen to the same sort of instructions every day in the Murli, and there's not really that much new under the sun. It's sort of just reminding us, and yet we still keep going in circles. It's like if you take the Avyak Murlis, say, what do we have? Maybe 50 years of almost of Avyak Murlis. Even there, Baba is repeating the same points, and he does it because, well, I guess it must mean that we are not really getting anywhere, or we're not doing it as efficient as we should. And Baba often is underlining that we are we keep repeating the same kind of mistakes and the same sort of conflicts, inner conflicts, external conflicts with especially other BKs, and in that process we are wasting a lot of valuable time, which could instead be used on quality yoga and getting closer to our angelic stage. So that phase of fluctuation, I think we can shorten, but it requires a very, very high level of commitment and of determination. Certain principles we should set for ourselves, and we should follow them, and we should be very, very committed to them. Every time we fail as Brahmins in our dealings and behavior, it's usually because we become mindless. We forget those commitments, and then we fall back into old habits, and then we are under the control of our sanskaras, of old nature, and impulses and instincts and reaction patterns and whatnot. I don't think, compared to the angelic stage, I don't think that overcoming this kind of old nature and sanskaras is near as advanced as becoming bodiless. I think it's absolutely within reach if we really, really want it, and if we are sincere about it. And for me, it has everything to do with self-respect and dignity. If I consider, following old nature and sanskaras as being absolutely under my dignity and under my self-respect, then I will not do it, and because my conscience will constantly tell me, you are actually compromising your values here. So it's a question of staying true to your values. I think the power of the intellect and of determination and willpower is highly underestimated. I think it's a power that can completely override our sanskaras and nature. And this is exactly what Baba is telling us in both Sakamurlis and Avyak Murlis. Your intellect has immense power, and it can achieve wonders. And you can, Baba often says, just emerge that sense of pride and the consciousness of being almighty authority, all the titles that we get, and all virtuous, and emerge it. Just emerge it. And we often think, well, how can I fool myself? I am actually under the influence, or how can I tell myself I am not? But again, it's just because the intellect is not sufficiently determined that we have these fallbacks, and we can shorten that time, but we can only do it if we make that very, very firm commitment.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, dear brother. And you say the success comes from determination. And the determination, I understand, makes us to sustain all our BK life to become first, Jivan Mukti stage, and then the angelic stage. But sometimes this determination is fluctuate, and you said it's the under the influence of the environment, the people, or whatever. But what are the other causes could be, really shaken our determination?
I don't know. I mean,
Well, by your experience, maybe you can just say a few words. I'm sure you have experienced, many, ups and downs.
yeah, but I think they will only happen until you emerge that determination. And I mean, it's hard to say where it comes from and what are the determining factors. Um, I don't know. But it's quite clear that the powers of the intellect. I mean, we have to empower our intellect in order to override our sanskaras. That's a general principle. The more empowerment we give to our intellect, the easier it becomes to override the sanskaras. And it's not a suppression. It is actually a complete elimination or close to elimination. I mean, determination is one thing, but we need yoga, of course, as well to completely wash away the effect of our sanskaras. But the point here is that none of those two are sufficient in themselves. We need both yoga power, but we need also determination power. And determination is under that umbrella that's called gyan, and yoga is vigyan. It's beyond knowledge, but knowledge shapes our views, our values, our principles, and once we have established those, and they are sort of backed up by faith, I don't think we can deviate much from it. And if we do, we will certainly know it immediately, and we will try to restore that sense of mastery as quickly as possible. So we don't waste too much time. I think that when we just drag on this process and go around in circles and don't really feel any progress in our life, it's like this year was like last year, it was like the year before. I'm really not feeling much progress and therefore not much enthusiasm. It is because we are just sort of surrendering to these old nature and sanskaras instead of having that determined thought that we should break free of them, and it is perfectly possible. So one thing is that we need the power of yoga, but the power of the intellect, the power of powerful thoughts is not to be underestimated. And I think it's probably one of those points in the Murli that we tend to overlook, or we dismiss it, or we say, yeah, it sounds very nice, all of that, Baba, but the truth of the matter is we are not like that, and it takes time, and it's a process, and all of that. The interesting thing is, I remember Dadi Janki when she was faced with that argument, but Dadi, it's a process, and she absolutely didn't accept that premise, No, you make a decision, you make a determined thought, and then it's done, And that is, from her stage, of course, I mean, she was already quite advanced then, but that should be our experience, and this is absolutely achievable. Baba is not telling us anything that is not achievable. Everything is not only achievable in theory, it has been done by others. So we just have to follow their footsteps. And the method is definitely valid. It works.
Yeah, you just emphasize, and also Baba is emphasizing every day how the power of yoga, powerful yoga, is so help us to sustain this life and makes us powerful. And also, I feel that it also helps my intellect to become powerful as well. The more yoga and the more quality yoga I have, my intellect also becomes very subtle. The divine intellect starts to work on, and all our natural sanskars emerge. And I love the statement that you said, something natural can be sustainable. I think this was really so touched my heart. And I think that's very, very true. So if we become natural, emerge our natural sanskars and just let go of all our old sanskars, old behaviors, then we can progress a lot. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is what I understood.
We should never consider ourselves to be victims. The victim consciousness is completely useless, and Baba is exactly pulling us in the opposite direction.
Yes, yes.
Think
He's
of yourself as
encouraging
masters.
us. He is just uh, trying to increase our own self-respect a lot every day. There is one more question. I think that will be the end. I know we make you so tired, but Brahma Baba and Dadis use the mantra Om for cleaning and open the intellect. Maybe that's one formula to give power to the intellect.
Can you repeat the
Yeah,
formula?
Brahma Baba and Dadi used to mantra Om for cleaning and open the intellect. Maybe that's one formula to give power to the intellect.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the intellect is in a way a mystery, because I feel that the intellect is very much a inseparable part uh, in a way, our identity and our eternal identity throughout the cycle. Sanskaras are different. They are sort of they come and go, they change, and they are overlaid and so on. But the intellect is something that is, in a way, very close to the soul. And so are our values and principles, and the whole question of the whole question of self-respect is certainly coming from the intellect. So anything that can develop the intellect can sort of empower it as well, and can encourage us to make high quality effort and to conquer our sanskaras and nature. And I think the single most important factor for developing our intellect is knowledge. We have to have a keen interest in this knowledge, and it's not enough just to listen to the Murli half an hour a day. We have to somehow bring that gyan within us in our life, and reflect on life and reflect on our journey, and understand the path. We have to understand the map. Before you embark on a journey, you need to study the map, and you have to go back and revise it and check and make corrections, and all that is part of our study. And we have to to apply knowledge in that way every single day, and check ourselves, and sort of evaluate and validate ourselves, and all of that is so important. And that's how our intellect grows. That's how we develop wisdom. We learn from experience, and and I think eventually that is going to boost our willpower and our determination. So
Well,
yoga is certainly not the answer to everything. Yoga is at most answer to half of it. The other half is gyan. And
yeah. But not only listening, the Murli is enough, the churning and understanding the deeply, because there are many deep points, as you were saying. And I think after that, apply it to our day-to-day life helps a lot, isn't it so?
of course,
Yeah.
it's by applying it that we really get experienced. I mean, that the real experience comes when we apply it, and then it becomes wisdom. Otherwise, otherwise it's just void points that we can speak, we can repeat them, but they don't really mean anything to us, and we don't really value their importance, because it's only things that I have actually translated into transformation in my life. You know, Gyan and yoga eventually has to lead to transformation, and it's that transformation that we really want. Gyan and yoga are just means for transformation. Both Gyan and yoga will be left behind, but the transformation will follow us. So that is what really counts. So if we don't feel progress and we don't feel transformed, what value and worth is the Gyan and yoga? Nothing.